Welcome back. More Canadians have been approved to leave Gaza through the Rafah border crossing with Egypt. Gaza's General Authority for crossing and borders shows that 165 people with connections to Canada are on the list of those eligible to leave. This as Israel has recalled its negotiators from Qatar after reaching a dead end in hostage release talks with Hamas. Israel has continued its bombardment of the Gaza Strip since negotiations broke down Friday. Israeli President Isaac Herzog says that the ground operation will also continue. And Palestinians are running out of places to go. The United Nations estimates that 1.8 million people in the territory have been displaced. Now, for the latest on the humanitarian situation in Gaza, I'm joined live by Joseph Belliveau, the Executive Director of Doctors Without Borders Canada. Thanks for joining us here live on CP24 yet again to discuss this ongoing humanitarian crisis. You know, we've heard the WHO call the conditions deplorable right now, and right now we're just trying to figure out where are people supposed to go. First, people living in North Gaza were told to go to South Gaza. A little bit more on that and on Doctors Without Borders efforts in that. But now they're in the South, and they're being told to leave the South. Where are they supposed to go?
There's no place to go. And, you know, from a medical humanitarian perspective, the resumption of hostilities now is the worst possible news that we could have. As you just mentioned in the clip there, enormous numbers, about 3/4 of the entire population of Gaza has already been displaced, so forced from their homes. Many of these people are living exposed to the elements. They don't have gas for cooking food. There isn't enough food. They don't have access to safe water. And many of them are just living out wherever they possibly can live. And on top of that, there are only 8 health facilities still functional in all of Gaza. The entire health system in all of the north of Gaza was destroyed. And so the pressures that are on the remaining health facilities, which Doctors Without Borders, MSF, are supporting a number of them, are just enormous. You know, we're just inundated with patients, many of whom have come from the north, but who are now getting sick, who are injured, and so on. And as you put it, where can people go? They're being squeezed into tighter and tighter spots without provisions, and more people will die under these circumstances.
And of course, this truce is now over. But during that time, that 7-week time, we were seeing aid moving in. It was still a fraction of what it was before the war occurred. But now that the truce is over, the fighting has restarted. Has anything come in through the Rafah border crossing with Egypt at all?
So during that truce, 7-day truce, there was an increased amount of food, water, medical supplies that were able to come in. Even during those 7 days of truce, the amount of vehicles with aid that were able to come in was less than prior to October 7th. So, you know, with the massively compounded humanitarian needs, even that was just a trickle relative to what's needed. And then, you know, of course, since the last few days now of the resumption of hostilities, the number of trucks that could get across are down. So my colleagues, the medical workers who are working in these health facilities, are just describing just absolutely untenable situation. In one case a few days ago, the emergency room in Nasser Hospital, one of the main now trauma functioning hospitals still existing, had to close the emergency room for a period of time. We literally could not do triage anymore because of the number of patients that were coming in. You know, so they're still seeing like 1,000 or more than 1,000 sometimes patients arriving in these facilities daily. Many of these still have fractures, burn wounds, internal injuries. Many of them are children. And we're not able to do adequate pain management because we don't have the medical supplies. So I'm still hearing from my colleagues about them doing surgeries. In one instance, doing a surgery on a child, and when that surgery was done, the child was very bewildered, of course, and immediately asking for their parents. Then we have to inform that the parents have been killed in the blast that they were exposed to. You know, just as one example. And then on top of that, now we're really starting to see the secondary impacts of the violence. So the primary impacts are all the injuries. The secondary are now dehydration, children especially who are not getting enough water, respiratory tract infections, diarrheal diseases. We're very concerned now about cholera breaking out in these very tightly squeezed situations that people are living in. Measles we're concerned about as well. So the medical situation is out of control. And with these orders now to evacuate areas in the south even further, as you say, more and more squeezed, less and less medical facilities available, more people are going to die under these circumstances.
All right, now we have to get to this as well. My colleague Andrew Brennan forwarded this to me. He talked about how Doctors Without Borders Canada releasing a request for more information after some of your vehicles, which are marked Doctors Without Borders, have been destroyed during evacuation processes. Where are you in that investigation? What details do you have on what your colleagues experienced?
So this event occurred, or is rather a series of events that occurred between November 18th and November 20th. During that time, so you'll recall, around November 11th, hospitals, November 10th, 11th, hospitals in the north started to be surrounded, bombarded. Ground troops started to enter some of those facilities. And from that point on, we could no longer do medical services, and we were only just trying to evacuate people. Now, on November 18th, we organized a convoy with MSF, Doctors Without Borders staff and their families, almost made it through the various checkpoints, but were turned back at the last checkpoint. And then on the way back, that convoy was fired upon. And then when we did arrive back to our compound in the north, a couple of days later, the vehicles, we witnessed the Israeli tanks and machinery destroying those vehicles. So this unfortunately is a pattern that we have experienced, that we've witnessed over these last weeks, which is a complete disregard for non-combatants in a warring situation, and explicitly for medical personnel, medical vehicles, as you indicated, well-marked medical vehicles and hospitals. This pattern of disregard for medical safety is a crime under international humanitarian law, and we've seen that pattern just be repeated over and over. And it's one of the things that we're very, very fearful that will continue now with the resumption of hostilities.
All right, scary stuff. All right, Joseph Belliveau, Executive Director of Doctors Without Borders Canada, thank you very much for talking to us about what your colleagues are dealing with on the ground level, and also looking for answers as well. We do appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Phil.
Of course.